This is the first time in Pokemon history where a mainline game is going from a turn-based battle to a real-time combat system. And from the looks of it, there is a ton to go over. The first thing to talk about is there is no more PP.
What?
Instead of having a set number of moves to use, there is a cooldown system, and it looks like the weaker moves have a cooldown of about 4 to 7 seconds, which means that the higher base power moves are likely going to have a longer cooldown. But it is interesting that some status moves have a bit longer cooldown than attacking moves, but I think there's a strategy behind this. Because contrary to the way games are played today, you don't have to wait for your opponent to use a move and you can combo your moves. Here's what I mean. Chikorita is shown knowing Leafage, Tackle, and Tail Whip with a cooldown of 6, 4, and 7 seconds respectively. Since Tail Whip lowers the opponent's defense, it may be wise to start with Tail Whip and then use your other two physical attacking moves to deal additional damage rather than just relying on attacking moves, which is admittedly how I tend to play. Or you might try to combo your moves. We can see that the move Bullet Punch closes the distance between Lucario and Absol, which then allows you to use close range attacks like the move Rock Smash or maybe close combat. No longer will any move be obsolete since this combat system encourages you to constantly cycle your moves. But the most fascinating mechanic I've seen is that some moves have been completely reworked to set traps on your opponent and have them KO themselves. Like this clip of Hippowdon using Stealth Rock on Talonflame. But this clip is especially curious. It's interesting because I ran the calcs and a level 30 Diggersby cannot one-shot a level 30 Binacle with Dig, which leads to 3 possible explanations. The first is that it's a critical hit, but this is immediately debunked because it doesn't say critical hit on the right side of the screen like it does right here. The second is that certain moves deal additional damage if you time them well. So maybe there's a mechanic where you get a boost when you time things well, like setting up Stealth Rock as a trap, timing a dig dodge, or even a perfect protect. Kind of like this move here in Final Fantasy 16. You can use the move normally and it still deals damage, which is perfectly fine, but when you use the move and it acts as a dodge first, it deals a ton of additional damage. Would be a cool mechanic, I don't know if they're putting it in. Or the final reason might be that this specific Diggersby has the ability Huge Power, which always one-shots a Binacle according to my calculations. Are abilities back? I don't know, but I speculate more in section number 7. But back to combat, it seems as though ZA is encouraging you to rotate between all 4 moves instead of relying on one singular move to get you through the battle. So if your only moves are Peck and Growl, it might be wise to continue to use Growl while you wait for Peck to become available, as this will just keep your opponent's attack lowered as you attempt to dodge. Something I noticed as I was analyzing some demo gameplay is that hold items are in the game. Here's why I say that. As Austin John is going through the Pokemon selection screen, we can see that not only are natures in the game as shown by the arrows right here, but also right below that is a section for hold items. Now I know you might be thinking that this is exclusive to Megastones, but tell me why your satchel has a dedicated section for berries. And the description for an Oran Berry states that if a Pokemon holds one of these, it will be able to restore 10 HP to itself. And if a Pokemon can hold a berry or a Megastone, who's to say they can't hold something else? And then check out this clip of Kadabra and Scyther being traded. I just have to imagine that this Scyther is holding a Metal Coat, and that's the way to get Scizor in this game. And just a quick note on healing as well, since it is related to berries, you can heal mid-battle if you like, but there is a 10-second cooldown before you can go back into your bag and heal again, just to prevent heal spamming. The next thing to cover are these little symbols on top of the moves that you may have noticed. After analyzing some more footage, I found the following. No symbol at all means that this is a status move. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's a non-damaging move because we saw Stealth Rock KO Talonflame, but it looks like this category is for non-direct damage attacks. Sometimes there's an X, and this indicates that there's no effect, as we see Electric deals no damage to ground types and Dragon Pulse has no effect against fairy types. This plain circle here indicates a neutral hit, while the circle with a little dot in the center means that this is a super effective hit. And I know that there's this Pokemon Champions clip where we see new terms like extremely effective and mostly ineffective, but it appears that ZA doesn't have symbols for that yet, as this water move against Numel is quite effective, but it is still just a circle with a dot in it. Maybe that changes in the future. And you may have also noticed that there's this C+ next to some moves, and I figured that one out as well. This means that these moves can be powered up by picking up Mega Stones during battles, and gathering enough of these stones allows your Pokemon to use a powered up version of this move after hitting the plus button on your Nintendo Switch controller. Now I do deem this mostly ineffective because it's better to Mega Evolve your Pokemon, as Megas have powered up moves anyway, but I did find 2 use cases for this. The first is for Pokemon who cannot Mega Evolve, as this still gives them a way to be viable in battle and to feel more powerful as the battle goes on. And the second is to use this as a finishing move to KO your opponent if maybe you need an extra boost. So maybe the first move dealt about 40% damage to an opponent and you're really looking to 2-shot them. So you can click that plus button on your controller and deal additional damage to ensure that you don't have to wait around for another attack to cool down. Statuses are a huge part of the game, and they seem to be staying in ZA, but not how you think. Moves like Thundershock will still have a chance to inflict paralysis, but it seems to work a bit differently here. I did initially think that this would interfere with how fast your moves cool down, but it looks like from this clip here, there's just a note that said this Pokemon is paralyzed, they may move around the battlefield a bit slower. This does seem to be advantageous, as you can now outposition your opponent easier and even cause them to flinch with Air Slash. Look out for Serene Gray's Togekiss in this game. Poison makes its return with a mechanic I'm a bit sad about. Long ago, walking with your poison Pokemon would result in them losing HP with every single step that you take, and this mechanic seems to be making its return, but only this time if your Pokemon is just out of the Pokeball, they'll still be losing health. However, this can be easily negated by just returning them to their Pokeball, but this does mean the longer your Pokemon is out in battle, the more poison damage you will take. But one good thing to know is that poison damage will not KO your Pokemon at 1 HP. Sleep seems to remain the same as the mainline games because although it says that this Houndour got drowsy after being hypnotized, they're not moving at all. And I have yet to see if freezes in this game or a frostbite from Legends Arceus makes their return to reduce the power of special attacks, but confusion looks like it's here to stay as we see Roselia get confused by Confuse Ray, and I imagine that this Dragonite is confused after using Outrage a few times. Although I'm unable to piece together if you hit yourself in confusion in this game. Status moves have also been brought back with what I'm calling the dot system because I just have no idea what else to call it. But the 5 dots represent attack, special attack, defense, special defense, and speed. And instead of having the ability to get to +6 or -6, it looks like there's only 3 categories: raised, neutral, and lowered. I say this because we can see Absol using Swords Dance in this clip, which normally doubles your attack, but here it just says that Absol's attack is raised with 1 red triangle pointing up, but it's the same if not worse as Bellsprout using Growth, which raises both attack and special attack at the same time. So that signifies to me that Swords Dance is no longer going to be superior to moves like Bulk Up or Growth. However, these stat buffs are only temporary and last about 10 seconds, meaning you have to act quick in order to maximize your positioning or ensure you get out of harm's way. Positioning is probably the most important tactic in ZA's real-time combat system since both parties' accuracy depends on it. It looks like there's a wide variety of moves with some having a shorter range, others having a longer projectile range, and even some moves that are seemingly undodgeable like Surf. But it seems advantageous to wait for your opponent to attack first to know where to position your Pokemon or use a timely protect, as I've seen several clips of a Pokemon getting ready to launch a move that takes a second or two, but this is all the time your opponent needs to launch a counterattack. One helpful tip that I've seen is that you can recall your Pokemon whenever you'd like to dodge an attack if you're in a bind. Another tip is that the player character also has a health bar similar to Legends Arceus, so obviously it's beneficial for you to dodge roll and avoid getting hit by attacks. But your partner Pokemon will default to running back to you if you're not using any moves, so it might be wise to stay out of trouble and ensure your Pokemon has a clear path back to you in order to avoid as much damage as possible. And the second to last thing to talk about is, of course, Mega Evolutions are back. Now this video will be spoiler free, there will be no new Megas in this section, but there still are a few things I'd like to touch on. There's this gauge at the bottom right that dictates when you can Mega Evolve, and the way to fill it up is to collect Mega Stones as they drop during battle. These Mega Stones drop after dealing a certain amount of damage, and when the gauge is full, you just need to click in the right thumbstick on your controller in order to Mega Evolve. You can potentially stay Mega Evolved if you pick up enough Mega Stones to keep the gauge full, but it does seem unlikely to be able to do that. The good news is that contrary to original Mega Evolution in mainline games, it has been confirmed that not only can you Mega Evolve the same Pokemon multiple times in the same battle, but you can also Mega Evolve multiple Pokemon multiple times in the same battle if you pick up enough Mega Stones. Now one quick thing here is that I did think that Mega Evolving might have a strategy to it, like resetting your cooldowns for your moves, so it might be a good idea to use all of your moves and then Mega Evolve and then just unleash a flurry of attacks, but that was disproven and you should just Mega Evolve whenever you feel like it. And now it's time to speculate about a few things that I noticed in the gameplay trailers. It is uncertain, but I do believe that HMs are back in some capacity because I have seen a few times where the player character cannot move because of rocks in the way, which looks like they can be rock smashed, but that's only one instance, and it might be because it was a demo. I'm also wondering if there are abilities worked into the game somehow, because it is interesting to see Mega Charizard X using Outrage with a visible symbol of claws being visible, as their ability is Tough Claws. Or even Mega Kangaskhan's baby also attacking, as that's their ability too. And there's the fact that the Rogue Mega Tyranitar battle seemingly has a sandstorm during the fight. But of course, this is all just speculation, and we probably would have seen abilities on this screen, although it does look a bit blank to me. Almost as if they're trying to save some mystery for the game. Who knows, but if you like this video, I would really appreciate a like, and if you want to see my next video about 10 things to know before ZA releases, make sure to hit that sub button because I will be covering all things Legends ZA extensively. In fact, my first stream is going to be covering Legends ZA from start to finish whenever it releases on October 16th. Stay tuned for more news, but thank you very much, and I will see you all very soon.